Hi, party people. I put the party lights on my ring light because I don't have any makeup on or anything. I don't know. I just couldn't fucking be bothered, let me tell you. But I wanted to talk about Britney and like, honestly, what is there to say? The only thing to say is free Britney. Like, that's literally the only thing to say. Um, it seems that in the state of California, slavery is alive and well under the legal form of conservatorship. So, 13 years ago, when this woman was 26 years old, she had just gotten out of a bad marriage with K-Fed. She was acting out like everybody fucking does. Everybody acts out. Like, who among us has never acted like a crazy fucking person, okay? And her kids were taken away from her, and she was captured on film by paparazzi because she's a famous person. The rest of us act out. Nobody captures that on film and publicly names and shames us and then like labels us as nuts for the rest of our fucking lives. It's just one instance, right, in your life. So this happened 13 years ago, and the vultures in her life, her narcissistic father, psychopath, went ahead and took the opportunity to have her officially and legally labeled as mentally incapacitated, and this is when she was officially made into a slave. And the thing is that if she can't legally sign any of her contracts, the contracts to put out new music, the contracts to tour, the contracts to do back-to-back Vegas residencies, the contract to be a judge in American Idol. She can't sign any of these things, so they're signed on her behalf. However, she can't contest the terms of these contracts that she's not able to sign, and she's not allowed to be in breach of these contracts. If she is in breach of these contracts, then she's punished legally, emotionally, financially, physically. Okay, so if that's not slavery or human trafficking, I really don't know what is. And it really makes me think about how many people work towards finding some kind of resolution to human trafficking, and yet here we are in the state of California where they have legalized trafficking. And it's not like this woman was even trafficked, which is, to be taken from a place of safety across a border to a place of unsafety. No, this has happened in her own home. With her own finances, they've turned her own house into a prison. She's not allowed to leave it. Her house is staffed by employees who keep her there, such as security. The security, I guess it's supposed to protect her from people from the outside, such as crazed fans, but really, truthfully, it seems the only people who actually love and care for Britney are her fans, because they're the people who started the Free Britney movement. If they hadn't done that, how long would this have gone on for? Until she fucking hanged herself? And staffed by security and staffed by medical staff, like nurses apparently. There are nurses, more than one, there to give her medication. What does she need medication for? Yeah, good question. I wonder what she needs medication for. Apparently, they've decided she has bipolar disorder, so therefore she needs nurses in her home. And but really, what does she need the medication for? She needs the medication so that she's more subservient, so that there's no subordinance from her, so that she really doesn't have the capacity to say no to all of these things that she's made to do. And then when it turned out through her testimony, we found out that it was a year ago or something like that, she said, listen, I before Corona, am I supposed to say that word? Is this thing gonna get, oh boy, is this thing gonna have a tag on it like I'm talking about that. Um, so before the incident last year, um, she asked to not have to do like a back-to-back Vegas tour again or something, whatever it was in her testimony, whatever she said, it was something that it was really unfair that she was having to work so hard. And so the people in the conservatorship ganged up her management and all of these hideous people ganged up in a room behind her back and decided that she was out of order. And so they legally framed it as though she had more mental issues and that she needed to be put on lithium. So, if her, current medication wasn't strong enough for her to no longer have an opinion or a say in her life, the lithium would certainly solve that problem for them. And how long would this go on for? This would go on forever. This would go on indefinitely under the fucking law. Like, I don't even know where to begin on this. It's horrendous. Like, this is collectively, like spiritually, this is like the oppression. Britney is like the physical embodiment of the abuse and oppression of women that goes on all over the world, but it's all happening in her. Her finances have been taken away from her. This woman is a goddamn millionaire. Like, everybody thinks if I won the lottery, all my problems would be solved. And yet, she has won the lottery because she's like she's a millionaire, and yet she has no access to her finances. She cannot make a single decision in her life. She can't even go on holiday without permission. Okay, so that's financial control. Then there's the reproductive control. We find out how horrifying that she's had forced IUD implanted in her for the last 13 years. Like, what? So this is like forced sterilization. And then also she's 39, okay? So these have been her prime reproductive years. And then all this time, people we're thinking, oh, maybe she doesn't want to have any more kids. She had two when she was quite young, and maybe that's it. She's done, closed shop, right? No, not right. She has wanted to have more children, but she hasn't been allowed to. So she's had forced sterilization. That's what that is. Because again, this is an indefinite thing. There's no point where she can say, oh, actually, I want this out now because I want to try to have a baby. There's no point where she's allowed to do that under this conservatorship. Not allowed to get married. What the fuck? Okay. In the land of the free, no less. She's not a free woman. And you know what? No one is free unless Britney is free, because if it can happen to her, it can happen to fucking anyone. All right? And it could certainly happen to any woman. And it's literally the equivalent of, in the 1950s, a narcissistic male, someone who enjoys asserting dominance and control over the women in their lives, whether it's their wife or their mother, their sister, their daughter. If the woman isn't doing what they ask, what they deem to be appropriate for the woman's life, not making the right choices by this hideous male, this toxic, narcissistic psychopath male in their lives, what they could easily do and legally do in 1950 was to label the woman hysterical and lock her up in an asylum. And in the asylum, this woman would, of course, be on forced medication, maybe forced sterilization, probably lobotomized, and then, this clown would be able to freely manage her finances and assert control over this woman's life. No questions asked. And so obviously you can't do that anymore, but what you can do and get the same results in the state of California, it turns out, is put the women in your life under a conservatorship. So again, if this could happen to fucking Britney, it can happen to anyone. And this is not a single solitary case. It's not just about her, although we are talking about her. This is about thousands upon thousands of people. And, it's come to my knowledge that apparently, like, this is a disability issue as well. Many people who have disabilities are put under conservatorships as though they're not of sound mind, and as though finances are what define a person, like as though it's important that someone else needs to manage your finances, otherwise, like, what's going to happen to you, like like that even means anything. I mean, I don't even know how to put this into words. Like it's obscene. It's just obscene. It's obscene that this is even a thing in the year 2021. But here we are. And so again, returning to all of the rights that have been taken away from her. So it's financial, and and again, why this is the physical embodiment of narcissistic abuse, because what falls under narcissistic abuse? It's financial control, it's fear, coercion. She's, constantly being coerced into doing things or frightened into doing things, like, because there's severe punishment, like she said, severe punishment being she's not allowed to see her own children, even though she's on medication, even though she goes for therapy. Like, nobody has this happen to them. Many people have bipolar disorder and they don't have this happen to them. And many famous people do, like Mariah Carey, like Halsey. Like, nobody has done this to them. And certainly nobody has done this to any fucking man who's come across as, unstable. Kanye West, Robert Downey Jr., Charlie Sheen, like the list just goes on. Like, no one has ever done this to a man who's a celebrity, and so what does narcissistic abuse look like? Financial control, fear, coercion, reproductive control, emotional control, psychological control. And what defines a psychological control here? It's the gaslighting. So basically this is my assessment and I'm standing by it because this is what I've observed and what I heard in that testimony, this is what I've observed, is that she was gaslit into thinking that she was nuts. Okay, like I said in the beginning, like, who among us has not done something that's fucking nuts, okay? At some point in their lives that you would deem to be nuts, like just going over the top with something, Who among us has not done that, okay? And you don't get labeled nuts altogether, like as though you've just been cancelled and that's it, that's who you are forevermore. No, that doesn't happen. It's a one-off instance, right? And so basically, like, she was gaslit into thinking that she'd done something so wrong that her freedoms had to be taken away from her. And she didn't even know that she was allowed to appeal this decision. And we were also gaslit. We were also made to believe that Britney was nuts through all of the pictures of her losing it and whatever. Like, what families really do when they love and care for someone? They protect them. They protect them from outside criticism. They protect them from humiliation. They protect them from looking a fool to the outside world. That's what people who really love and care for you do. Even if you are fucking losing it, like, nobody's going to exploit that and take advantage of you when you're at your most vulnerable. So if somebody's taking advantage of you when you're at your lowest fucking point, that's how you know that that person does not love and care for you. And that's exactly what happened to Britney. So that was the psychological control there, which has gone on for 13 years. And it seems like during this time, when everyone's been at home, she wasn't making any money. And, like she said in her testimony, she didn't get access to having any normal things that she would normally have done, like her nails, like getting a massage, like acupuncture and stuff like that, which makes her feel better, which makes everybody feel better getting these things. Sure, okay, there was a time when nobody was getting this stuff done, when we had like those ridiculous, endless lockdowns. But I mean, after that point, you wear your mask or whatever and you get on with it. So why wasn't this being provided for her? It wasn't being provided for her because she wasn't working that year. So there was no need for anybody to pretend to give a flying fuck about Britney. All of those people that put her under this conservatorship for her benefit, their true colors came out during that time. None of it was for her benefit, but the truth really couldn't have been more clear during that time when absolutely nothing was provided for her. And you could even tell from her tone that she just doesn't care anymore. She's just like, well, I don't care if this is humiliating anymore. I do not care about my pride anymore. And that's, when people are in abusive situations, that's all they have left. All they have is their pride. All they have is their you know, what they believe their appearance is to the outside world, like what they look like. You know, like at least I have that. At least I have my dignity. You know what I mean? And you could tell from her tone that she's just like, I don't give a flying fuck anymore. Like if I don't do this today, then I'm going to live and die this way. And you know, I asked myself, like, how has she even survived all of this time under these just obscene conditions? And she survived all this time, she said so herself, because she has faith in God, and that's what she believes in. And I mean, how strong is Britney? She's so fucking strong. And yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to say on this. Really, there's nothing to say. I mean, this isn't a discussion. It's just not a discussion. That law needs to be repealed and cancelled. It's ridiculous. It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. I mean, maybe it does happen in one or two places, but in any fucking civilized country, that doesn't happen. It's obscene. It's just like dumping someone in an asylum and locking the door and throwing away the key. It's like that, but you can't do that anymore, so they've written it into some kind of legal format that somehow makes it okay to do this to another person, and it's not okay to do it to anyone, let alone Britney Spears. And that's it. That's what I gotta say. Free Britney.